Women bring an emotional intelligence to the table and some experiences to the table that are an advantage.
They wouldn't really expect that, you would come out winning or you would blow everyone out of the water.
I'm here today with 3 amazing female founders to chat a little bit about their experience and their founder journeys. What was the most rewarding and the most challenging part of starting your companies?
The most rewarding part is really realizing that I'm not only just building something for myself or for my team, but really something that's impacting every single American's lives.
For me, I think the most rewarding thing about being a startup founder is you get to do something new that no one has done before.
What's most rewarding to me right now is that I am working on a challenge that I think faces me, my children, the world at large. And so every day I am energized to be solving that challenge, which is in of itself rewarding. The challenge there is that I do think the stakes are high. We have sort of a limited time as a world and as a planet to make real impact. I feel the pressure of that every day.
What advice would you give to young founders just starting out?
Don't be too stuck on your particular idea that you have at first. You have to be flexible. You might think that something's a great idea, and then you go and do customer research, or you initially launch, and you might learn something new.
Just making decisions and making progress is, at the early stages, super helpful. You will validate your idea, or you will validate the fact that it was wrong and you are going to need to pivot. You're going to get a lot of advice, and you have to be able to filter that. So take all of this with a grain of salt.
That is a good point about advice. I think also earlier on, when I would get advice from someone, I would be afraid to go against their advice because I didn't want to disappoint them or let them down. And now that I have a little bit more experience, I just to take in people's shared experiences and then pick and choose what I decide to go with.
Especially VCs. We like to think that we give really great advice, but can't guarantee quality, not guaranteed.
Like VC rejections are so funny. One person was like, you have such a huge moat around your business, like the technology will really protect you. And then the next VC said, but it'll be so competitive, you have no moat. So
Yeah, I definitely resonate with all of that. I think for me, it's about being bold and being authentic and also being vulnerable. I think a lot of times, especially when you're early out, I feel like for me, I was looking at a lot of other founders that have had successes, trying to see, what is it that they're doing? Maybe it's something that I want to replicate. And then I feel like when you get too deep into that, you start losing, who you are truly and what makes you special and why you're building this business. I think for me, it's around believing in yourself and having that self-confidence. When you really have that, it really, exudes, and it sometimes I feel like it's even a shocker that makes people want to trust you, want to give you extra opportunities. So a lot of times I feel like, now there is more of an ecosystem and more support for minorities, for females, to really come out and make a change. And when you're able to, truly believe that you can control your own destiny, everything is in your own hands and you can do this, I really think it creates a lot of impact.
When I founded Flow Carbon, I had recently had a child, and I think that you see less and less of that, or at least it feels like there are fewer women with young children who are founding companies, but I think that it's actually in some ways an advantage in an exercise of being able to juggle multiple things and manage different stakeholders. Women are often a little hesitant to jump into founding companies, or at least to pitching VCs, and might feel like that will be held against them. And in my experience, I don't think it is, and I don't think it should be. Women can definitely be both, have a rich and robust home life, and found companies and lead great companies and be leaders in both places.
People, I think, put an outsized emphasis when they're deciding whether to found a company about whether it's the right time or what will happen when they have children. I've been able to make it work and not make a ton of personal sacrifices in my life, and I would just encourage people to go for it, and when the time comes, they'll be able to figure it out then.
Totally agree with that. It's not for the faint of heart, I would say, but it's very doable. This was my 3rd baby, and one was born pretty much as we launched my first company. My second daughter, while I was in the hospital, we got a term sheet for acquisition of our other company. And then with my son, most recently, I don't know how or why we chose to put out our light paper, which ended up being the beginning of a fundraise while I was in the hospital. And so I guess it makes the hospital more interesting. It certainly does keep you busy. Each time it gets easier to balance all of the things going on. None of our investors would have been less interested if my emails were a bit on delay. Every second of these crazy fundraise moments, selling company moment, they help me remember the birth of my children, and all worked out well.
You know, if anything, stories like these just show that female founders are able to demonstrate resilience and dedication to the cause at a completely different level.
For me, I never really felt like there was pushback, but it was more of people didn't really expect anything. They wouldn't really expect that, you would come out winning or you would blow everyone out of the waters. When you are able to do that and people see the way that you execute, it really does make you really shine. And I think that's, how diamonds shine under pressure, and that's what we're all doing today.
Going into a room, especially in an industry that's pretty male dominated, especially with older men, I definitely stood out. And I think I figured out eventually a way to kind of feel confident in those settings and also to make the most of it. Like, people would remember who I was, right? I wasn't just another face in the crowd, and kind of use those things that could be disadvantages to be advantages.
There are clear stats out there. There are fewer female-founded companies. I think it's like 2% of VC funding goes to women, which is obviously a very small piece of all VC funding. You go into that sort of feeling like you might be at a disadvantage being a female.
So what can we in the venture industry do to be better at this? How do we help solve this issue?
A lot of, especially younger female founders, don't have the network to get access to capital. What if you don't have a bunch of wealthy family and friends who are qualified investors who can make the investment? So I think one of the bigger things that the VC world could do to respond to cold emails and inquiries on their website. Because right now, you can't get a meeting with the VC if you don't have a warm intro. That's an enormous barrier for founders in general, but I think especially female founders.
But it does feel like there's been a change, and there are more women partners, more women operators, and that's I think that will only improve. I really do think there seems to be a genuine focus on changing those numbers.
All right, guys, so to finish off, we're gonna end with some fun, quick questions. So this is the Fifth Wall Quick 5. But before we start there, please subscribe to our channel. As you know, Fifth Wall has a large climate tech practice. In that vein, would love to hear, in the fight against climate change, what place in the world do you hope to protect for future generations?
I would really like to protect the snow in the Rocky Mountains. I'm a big skier, and I think that's something that could become endangered over time.
I really think everything around the equator, you won't be able to live there safely or even travel there. Also coasts. I mean, we're sitting in New York City, we're in an island, and I don't want that flooded.
I'd be a violinist.
Oh, wow.
I would also be a musician.
I would decidedly not be a musician. I am musically challenged, but I really admire that. It starts with sleeping really late, which seems somewhat impossible, but it starts with late sleep, a long workout, and then once those two things are done, I haven't thought of any other dreams other than that.
Yeah, I was gonna say having absolutely no agenda for me.
Yeah, I agree. I would wake up without an alarm, but I would open the shades. I would wake up with the sunrise and then go for a hike.
I recently read a biography of Ruth Handler, who was the founder of Mattel, although her husband actually was listed as the founder, but she was the brains behind it, the CEO powerhouse, the creator of Barbie, among other iconic toys. It was a great book and a great story.
Because my mind is so busy with work, I like to reread fiction that I read before. So I've recently reread the Harry Potter books. So that's a good way to have fun while reading.
For me right now, I've really been enjoying the power of habit. It's kind of cool to see how you can manipulate yourself into forming new habits or getting rid of habits. And right now, I'm trying to get rid of my boba addiction.
Why would you want to?
Don't stop believing.
Love it. Very, very also appropriate to this discussion and like the founder journey. Don't stop believing.
Don't stop believing.
Love it.
For me, it's 22. Start young, have that energy, and you preserve that momentum.
Love it. Mine is total eclipse of the heart, which I cannot carry with my voice, but not afraid to try.
I do not sing karaoke because I could murder somebody with my voice.
Thank you guys so much for joining me here this afternoon. It has been a pleasure to learn about your experiences and your views, and I have no doubt that this will inspire so many more female founders. We're so excited to see what you accomplish next and are incredibly grateful for your time.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you. Thanks for having us. Thanks for telling these stories and for making these videos.
Please remember to subscribe to our channel. Sorry, I cannot say that with a straight face.
Like and subscribe. Click the red button below.